Okay, I'm Luke McClay. This is my geology final creative project. Here's the start of it. I'm out here in Corte Madera, out in Mariner Cove right now, which is where I currently reside with my family. And I've lived here my whole life, and we've always been, we were right across the bay from the water. I'm a little bit down the street right now, but we're across the bay from the water. And prior to taking this class, one of the only things that I had ever thought about being a risk is, potential tsunami or sea level rising, just because of how close to the bay we really are. Where our house is located on the other side of these houses. So yeah, it was interesting when we did the last earthquake lab, that earthquake mapper that shows all the hazards, the potential hazards that there are, because this is all bay marsh, and this is all marshland, and everything that is, all these houses are built on top of artificial fill. It's very, very, very susceptible to liquefaction when an earthquake hits. So basically, the liquefaction is with the water in the ground. When it isn't stable, like it's like sand or mud, when the earthquake and when the ground starts to shake, that the sand that's wet, it gets liquefied, and everything that's built on top of it actually will it'll be super unstable. It's very susceptible to just basically falling into the ground to rubble. So that's one of the great risks upon living where I live that I found out upon taking this class. Another thing that I think is super interesting is how this area will be affected due to sea rise in the future. Sea levels are supposed to be rising due to the global warming and the melting of polar ice caps. And with that rise, this whole area will start to go underwater. I mean, on big storm days, when it really starts to rain, you can actually, on big storm days when it really starts to rain a lot, and then the tide comes in, sometimes the whole street gets underwater and flooded. So it wouldn't be a surprise at all to see the sea level rise really start to affect this area, and eventually probably make these homes obsolete. And people will lose all their investments in these houses due to the fact that, they'll be flooded. I don't know if we can see them from here, but a lot of these houses recently have been put on stilts and raised due to the rising sea level, as well as just high tide, because high tide can come in and flood all these. But yeah, I think it's a beautiful area, and it was really cool to learn more about the area that I live in by taking some of these labs. So yeah, now we are going to go up onto Ring Mountain, another place that I consider home. Here's part 2 of my final. I'm over here on Ring Mountain Preserve right now. It is gorgeous. And one of the reasons I decided to come up here for part of my final project, besides the fact that I was just down in there, it's really close to my house, is that there's a lot of interesting geologic stuff up here. Most of the rock on Ring Mountain is metamorphic rock, which is interesting. It's created with heat and pressure within the earth, and then it gets popped back up after a long time. But yeah, another thing that we learned is why it's so green around town, but here it's so patchy and sparse. A big reason for that is because the soil up on Ring Mountain, there's a lot of serpentinite in the soil. There's just a lot of serpentinite rocks. And serpentinite, actually, when it's in the soil, most plants cannot survive in the soil because it kills them. So a lot of the plants that you see here in these little wildflowers, they've developed over time methods to withstand the poisons in the serpentinite soil so they can thrive up on the mountain. It's a lot harder for bigger trees like that to grow over here due to the serpentinite soil, and I mean obviously it's way less sparse up on Mount Tam due to the less amount of serpentinite in the soil. Another big thing you got to worry about when living in Marin, just hazard-wise, is fires and landslides. And on Ring Mountain, it's fairly susceptible to both. As you can see, there's lots of dry grass that would light up in an instant. As well as areas of denser trees. So as you can imagine, if this were to light up, it would go pretty quickly. But yeah, oh, and then for landslides, you can't really see much right now, but there's a landslide, a big landslide over there, which you can see whenever you drive into Corte Madera. I would usually like drive into it as a child, and I'd think it was a spaceship crash site. But yeah, it's beautiful out, and that was my final project. I will be adding some info from the map sites that we use, the hazard sites, and yeah, thank you for a great year.